Opal. To a lot of people, it's the most exciting of all gemstones and is often called the Queen of Gems. In Brazil, bright precious opal can only be found in one particular place, Pedro Segundo. Named after the great Brazilian emperor, Dom Pedro Segundo.
Pedro Segundo is a laid-back, peaceful little town. Its location on a mountain plateau at an altitude of about 700 meters provides a comfortably cool climate in the otherwise very hot and little developed northeast of Brazil. In 1989, I completed my apprenticeship as a gemologist, a specialist in precious gemstones in Ida Oberstein. During the classes, I learned that besides Australia, here is the only place in the world where precious opals of the so-called crystal opal variety can be found.
A crystal opal is pure and free of the host rock in which it was created. Only after the invention of the electron microscope could the mystery that was still surrounding the natural structure of opal be illuminated. Crystal opal consists of trillions of microscopically small silicium dioxide spheroids that are stacked up on top of each other like infinitely tiny little pearls. The light rays are bent on each spheroid's spherical surface and then split into the colors of the rainbow. The difference between common opal, that shows no play of color, and precious opal consists in the uniformity and standardization of these spheroids. Because, in order to develop a play of color within an opal, the spheroids must be about the same size and ordered in a completely periodic pattern. This unique structure is the reason for the fabulous and somewhat magical play of colors never seen in any other gemstone. Pedro Segundo isn't a typical mining town. Of the approximately 30,000 inhabitants, only about 500 garimperos make a living from the mining and trading of opals. It is more fittingly described as a small agricultural town, perhaps with slightly more money going around due to the gemstones. Everybody knows everyone. Most of the people are related anyway, and the opals are boldly being offered for sale at the market and in the surrounding shops.
Pedras bem boa. É a roça dos Pereira mesmo. Pode mostrar umas pedras boas aí, seu Chico. As nossas pedras por enquanto só está sendo essas mesmo.
For the last 20 years at least, there has not been a single act of violence related to the opal trade in Pedro Segundo. Nevertheless, nobody would be advised to do serious business in a small, badly lit room like this. But it will do to get a first impression of what makes Pedro Segundo opals so unique in the world. The majority of the opals here originate from alluvial or secondary deposits. They are opal nuggets formed by a dynamic process of alluvial redeposition. Stones like this you only find by screening, screening and screening yet again. Dry screening without water. That's because Pedro Segundo is part of the state of Piauí, one of the driest areas in Brazil. The opals are completely covered with soil and dirt, which makes it impossible to distinguish them from the rest of the debris. To spot them, you have to chip off a piece.
Mas ela vem furada ou ela é tudo arredondada assim?
Dá umas redondas, dá umas furadinhas também.
Todos eles, tá?
A secondary deposit. That's what we call an occurrence of gemstones that are no longer at their place of initial creation. Over millions of years, erosion destroys the original opal seam. The individual stones are dispersed in all directions. As a consequence, the search for such opals is not economically viable for professional mining companies. Only luck determines how many tons of earth have to be sieved through in order to finally get hold of one single opal nugget, like this one. But whenever a good quality opal is found, the person who discovered it might easily be compensated on the spot for months and months of hard labor.
Ó, já tem cristal. Tá com cristal. Tá, as que eu quero vender, essas pedem tem cristal. Essa bota linda.
Já estão com vincelinho. Tira sol, fica bom.
Não, ela é boa.
For the people of Pedro Segundo, the opals are a blessing, a one-off gift from nature, albeit one that is relinquished only very hesitantly. The Pedro Segundo opal fields were formed about 40 million years ago, when rainwater washed silica out of the sandstone-based soil and deposited it into cracks and hollows. In time, the water evaporated and the remaining silicium dioxide transformed itself into opal. Around the opal, a silicified sandstone was created, extremely hardened due to the silica content. Most of the mining activities in Pedro Segundo are purely manual, and one could call them ecologically sound mining methods. Of course, these methods are slow and primitive. But due to the small number of precious stones here, mechanized mining just wouldn't be profitable. On the other hand, the garimpeiros of Pedro Segundo are able to search slowly but methodically through the areas thought to contain opal, so that it might even become difficult to find any untouched ground.
Aí, qual é que faz o obrigado?
Sai achando graça. Cadê meu dedo?
In the last couple of years, the lapidaries of Pedro Segundo have improved a lot when it comes to cutting the opals. Today, the flexible shaft makes it possible to preserve the natural form and beauty of the stone. Here we have an alluvial opal, quite special due to its size. Its rounded off form is well displayed, indicating that it was transported a very long way. Also very typical for opals from Pedro Segundo are these multiple successive layers. Each one is completely different in color and quality, running parallel to each other and completely straight through the whole stone. A teardrop shape weighing 31 carats from the Boimoto mine. This opal demonstrates the effects of the different successive layers in a cut stone very nicely. On one side, a beautiful pin-fire texture. On the other, a rolling flash. Well, an opal doesn't have to be big in order to show such a variety of colors, but it must be admitted that the stones shown here are rare collector's items, and that you would have to wait a very, very long time until one of the many small dealers in town might offer you such a special stone as this. To find the opals you can see here on this plate, a group of about 20 garimpeiros had to work hard for more than 7 months.
Esse tipo de pedra aqui tem muita dureza, uma louça firme.
The men have organized themselves into an association, and our friend here is responsible for the sale of the opals found, as well as for delivering lunch to his fellow workers. Every day before noon, he picks up the food rations from their families, and we accompany him to the Boimoto mine.
Agora 9h15, Pedro Segundo, cidade que eu amo tanto. Bom dia, cidade super maravilhosa.
During the 1970s and 80s, Australian-led mining companies working the mine blasted the rock face of the Boimoto mountain away again and again. Heavy machinery was used to push the dirt aside. Because of the high investments at the time, the miners were mainly interested in the numerous opal seams running inside the sandstone rock. The search for individual alluvial stones just wasn't worth the effort. Today, for our group, it's a different story. They may know that they can't expect to discover any large new finds, but at least they have secured a fairly regular income for themselves and their families. The toughest part of the labour, the breaking down of the hard rock face, has already been done. So all that remains for them to do now is to sieve carefully through what is left of the mountain.
Chico, Zé.
Certo.
Bandido mesmo que não me deu certo.
Mas não vou pegar.
Foi lá pra casa ontem, não.
Of course, usually all kinds of subjects might be discussed over a lunch like this one. But at the mine, just like everywhere else in Brazil, everything has to give way as soon as one of the pillars of Brazilian culture is on the agenda. Soccerism.
Mas amanhã ninguém vai trabalhar não, né? Jogo do Brasil, feriado. Brasil. 2-0 é... Vai pra cá, é 1-0 logo. Brasil, viu?
Brasil e Alemanha, né?
A Alemanha vai dançar em cima do Brasil.
Vai, né?
Contra-ataque da Alemanha. Aí eles são perigosos. E eles? Lançamento para o gol! Gol! Pode.
Brasil, mulher bonita, futebol e muita folia.
Within a radius of about 20 kilometers around the town of Pedro Segundo, People have searched for and found opals in practically every direction. Nevertheless, one mining area in particular, the Roça, deserves our special attention. 14 kilometers away from Pedro Segundo, it has certainly been the most productive site for finding opal in the last 2 decades. There is one big difference in this area. It displays a very high groundwater table. And readily available water means that pumps and motors can be used. Somehow, the decrepit diesel engines are made to work. Together with the water pumps, they throw the muddy earth material onto one of the simple yet robust screens. Only the big lumps still need to be removed by hand. Like this, the garimperos are able to work a lot faster, and if they manage to reach the deeper layers of earth here, there is a chance of finding an opal vein, which means a primary deposit. Now, the cost of running the machine pays off, as veins of opal that are still in their natural position promise a far larger quantity of gemstones. About 10 days ago, the men at this site were fortunate and hit a so-called opal nest. Each of the workers is entitled to an exactly defined percentage of the proceeds. After lengthy discussions and a lot of bargaining, they sold their find to one of the main dealers in Pedro Segundo.
Aquela pedra famosa, então eu tô com ela aqui.
And here they are, the opals from the site we've just seen. Of course, finding that many stones together is the great exception in Pedro Segundo, and something every miner dreams about. But even more important than the sheer quantity of the find is its quality. To better understand the distribution of quality in a gemstone deposit, it can be compared to a pyramid. Down at the wide base are the poorer quality gems, with only a little colour and no transparency. The more we move up on this pyramid of quality, the more beautiful the gems become. Yet at the same time, the fewer such stones exist on our planet.
Meu bem, não é preciso falar comigo dengoso assim. Brigas pra depois ganhar meu carinho sem mim. Se eu aumento a voz, você faz beicinho e chora baixinho. Diz que a emoção faz o seu coração preso no meu coração. Quero ver você. Já não acredito e você chora dizendo me ama. Se eu sei que na verdade